Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 7. It's called Les Écorchés. I think I said that mostly right. I might have looked it up. I might have searched a little definition before, or pronunciation rather.
I could hear you like typing away before
Oh,
we
that wasn't
started
that.
recording.
That wasn't that.
No,
That was
no,
before you
well,
came online.
I was thinking, I was like, well,
No,
looking up some last minute information.
no, I was just wanting you to tweet that. So,
So there was
um,
some last minute information. I thought, oh, maybe you found something interesting.
every so often they want to throw me a foreign title just to mess with me. This means to be skinned or flayed alive from my quick googling. So, yeah. So before we get to the episode, I'm going to say this at the start as well as the end, because some people will probably close this before it gets to the end. Next week the review will be late. We will not get to the Westworld review until the Tuesday. Blame Connor. But just so you know, don't expect it at the usual time next week.
Out of my control. I am away.
It's still in your side of the camp, if you will.
I mean, look, all I'm saying is this trip away was booked before the Westworld date was even announced.
Like, I'm just saying, you're basically dating your own Dolores. You don't have your own free will. You're Teddy. You're being controlled. That's all I'm saying, right? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. What are you going with?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so it won't be till next Tuesday next week. So apologies for that, but we're warning you so you know not to expect it at the usual time next week. But yeah, so this episode was full of things, and much like last week, it had a little bit of everything. Although this episode did a much better job of kind of tying it all together. It all kind of felt like it belonged with each other by the end of the episode. It was very Bernard focused. And we start off pretty much in the present day, if you want to call it that. That's the furthest in the timeline with Bernard.
I have some speculation on that as well, which we'll get to in a bit.
Cat, seriously. Just move the entire monitor.
Cats definitely don't deserve free will.
Right. So yeah, as far as we know, right, so this is the 2 weeks in the future. Although, at this point, in the timeline, in terms of what we've seen in this 2 weeks period, we're at least halfway through that, if not a little bit more. But, in present day, Bernard is woken up, and, what's his name? Baldy.
Strand.
You
yes. Literally just asked me
I know,
before
I
we
forgot.
started.
Right, but Strand, who, I mean, to be fair, he's not actually been that big a character this season. He's just kind of there.
Yes, ironically, you say as the tallest man in the room.
Sure, that's not that ironic.
Go with it, all right?
Not that ironic. If he was really fat, I'd maybe accept that joke, but that, nah. Anyway, so he is like, all right, so cause actually at first it's his Stubbs. He's like, oh hey, look, I think they don't want to actually help anyone. Maybe we could get to the old office and beam out some messages for help. And immediately Strand like sort of takes him and says, no, you're coming with me, and handcuffs him
at gunpoint.
Yeah, which implies to me that either they were listening in on their conversation they just had, so they knew they were going up to be no good, or they just have other reasons not to trust both of them.
Yeah.
Interesting. And arguably,
I think where it leads tells me they had other reasons.
Yeah. The fact that they had to handcuff them, though, does imply like a lack of trust in some way.
It does, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. But they go to the little house, the Ford house, and they go down to that basement. And it's funny because you'd been speculating for a while that everyone knew he was a host.
Yeah, this is where some of my speculation will come in.
So you're not buying that this is Charlotte finding out for the first time?
No. I think it might well be.
Okay.
What I think is that they might be misleading us, and we're assuming this is the latest in the timeline. But I don't know for sure that it is. I don't know that this doesn't actually, those scenes that we saw before with them, find him on the beach, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's not after this. That I was saying, oh, what if that might be a simulated version that they're running in the cradle with him, right? I don't know that still doesn't happen after this, and they're just misleading with the placement.
That's possible. I don't think it's in the cradle though. Again, I'm going back to the aspect ratio rule here. Every time we've seen inside the cradle, it's been the different aspect ratio.
I agree, and I've been thinking on that because obviously we spoke about it last week, and these are all very raw, fresh thoughts because we have this conversation right afterwards. And I was thinking about that over the week, and it seems too blatant. Like they're being so clear with here's an aspect ratio, this is different, that it doesn't feel right. It feels too easy. that there's got to be more to it.
I'll feel cheated
Really?
if they do this. Yeah.
Okay.
They're giving me a tool to identify between two things. If they go and betray that tool, then that's a bullshit move.
But I see, this is where I disagree. I think whenever they've used the tool, it's been when they are very clearly telling us they're in the cradle. The only time it was ever a mystery was right at the start of the season. Since last episode, they went, no, this is the cradle. And so whenever we see it now, we assume cradle. Just because they're not showing us the aspect ratio doesn't mean it's not in the cradle and they're just being cagey about it.
I'll be annoyed with that revelation if it happens.
Okay.
I will actively be annoyed with that. It won't ruin it for me, but I'll be annoyed with it. I think it'll be cheap, given what they've clearly established up until this point. I feel like that's it's deliberate pulling the rug out from under you, but they're cheating to do it.
Okay, which is interesting. On that note is maybe even a greater extension of what's in the cradle this season, because one of the things Ford says to Bernard in this episode is, he says, oh, we're all code here. He says, we're all code here, friend. Referring to being in the cradle, right? However, if you recall, back in the end of the first episode where we had the young Ford bot give the first message to Man in Black, one of the key things he said was, we're all code here. I mean, him saying that, lining up as, okay, it's all code here. Maybe he could have been talking about a larger part of, for the Man in Black being, in the cradle, or just a larger symptom of everything we're seeing this season is in that simulation. It's all code. Because at the time we interpreted that as, oh no, there's a code to be uncovered, right? It's to be deciphered. But if he was being more literal, then I don't know. It's possible.
Wait, you're thinking the entire season is inside the cradle?
Potentially.
I won't like that.
That's fair.
I think that'll also be bullshit.
That is fair. I'm not saying these are necessarily good revelations. I'm saying they are potential.
I mean, for a start, the cradle does get destroyed in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This version of it, but the technology presumably they have, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like you're jumping through a bunch of hoops here to sort of...
And just to say, if this is all in the cradle, this cradle getting destroyed means nothing. It's a representation. It's code. It's not the real one being destroyed.
Wait, what?
How I just speculated. If all of this season is taking place within the cradle, right?
All right, you're saying if the explosion took place within the cradle and the actual cradle itself is not being destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, yeah, that doesn't... Okay. If it's all in the cradle, then that's irrelevant. If it's just the Bernard stuff is simulations in the cradle, that doesn't add up because it has been destroyed before then in the timeline.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of any of what you're saying here, but this part's going to turn out to be in the cradle.
I'm not saying it's. I'm super into it. It's just things that have crossed my mind.
I think they've very intentionally made it easy to tell when it's when it's in the cradle and when it's not. I think that was an intentional choice, and I feel like doing that just so they could cheat us later would feel like a cheap trick.
Hmm?
Whereas,
it very well might.
Because this is the thing, season 1, all the mysteries that happened, yeah, people predicted a lot of them, but they predicted a lot of them because they were well seeded and they were there to be figured out. I feel like if they do that with the cradle this season, it's them trying to just outsmart us by not sticking to their own rules.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Nothing ever felt cheap last season, and nothing so far this season has felt cheap in that sense.
It hasn't, no.
So I think that would be strictly falling into the cheap category for me. I would have a lot of problems with this season if all of a sudden it's not everything you've seen this year has all been in the cradle.
That's fair. I think it would depend as to what would be the purpose. What was the purpose of the simulation, if that is the case.
Yeah. I am much ready to take a little bit more of this at face value. Like I almost wonder if you're going too far with the conspiracy theories at this point.
I'm taking it at face value until otherwise noted.
Don't get me wrong.
It was something that crossed my mind when Ford said that.
I expect there's more going on, obviously, than we know, and there's obviously still things to theorize. But I don't think we're all just in the Matrix this season.
No, that's fair.
But yeah, so they find all of the copies of Bernard, and it kind of, again, it prompts us into the flashback where Charlotte's trying to like ask him, okay, what happened to Abernathy? You were there. Tell me about this. And we go into his eye basically, and then everything kind of takes place in the timeline further back now. We go back to just after the trains crashed.
Yeah.
And this whole episode is largely a siege upon the base. It's Dolores and Teddy and co. who, you know, kill a bunch, steal their outfits, and then, you know, ambush another bunch of the guards, fill in Terminator stuff. There was a high body count in this episode of characters. Now, admittedly, they're all hosts for the most part, so they can pretty much all come back, potentially. Although that said, with the Cradle getting destroyed, they do make it sound like that's their backups gone, so they're at least implying they can't come back. I'm still not convinced that's the case.
Here's the thing. I think they can at the moment, because I think I'm going by zombie rules. You know, so you got to destroy the brain.
Right, okay. Yeah, and I can see it.
You know, their brain is still in the head. You know, the head's still intact. The body's destroyed, but there's no reason to get a backup because you can still just take that core out of their brain and put it into a new body.
Sure, yeah.
So I think that's the key. You got to, once you destroy the backups, you got to destroy the brain. You got to destroy that core in the head.
Because Clementine goes down in a blaze of glory. Angela, of course, you know, suicide bombs herself into oblivion with the guy. Basically flirts with him.
She's probably the one most gone because
she's
that
in pieces.
Probably takes out that thing.
She was literally like less than a foot away from that, you know, the grenade when it went off. So yeah, obviously, my favourite scene in the episode though, or my favourite section of the episode, might have been the Man in Black and Maeve and Lawrence. Yeah, that entire section, because Maeve, you know, running with her daughter, gets to this small town. Man in Black also sort of goes there for cover, running from Ghost Nation, and we get the kind of the play out of him walking past the window and then through the door, and it plays out like the memory. And I love that he thinks this is Ford, like more his manipulation, that it's just him, and that's why
Ford knows what he did to this woman.
Yeah, and not only just that, but the idea, and hell, maybe that's, I mean, if Ford did initiate Maeve's sort of awakening, like we speculated last year, then maybe he picked her for this based on that. So there might be some truth to that in that sense.
Yeah, it might be, yeah.
But he assumes that Ford's like directly behind this, like he's been seeing the other things where they've been talking to him and you know, the hidden messages and whatnot. And so even, you know, because he gets shot, and he gets shot in the shoulder, he gets shot in the other shoulder, and he gets shot in the leg. He gets shot all over, right? And then eventually gets shot in the chest a couple of times as well. I mean, he's still alive, but geez, I mean, barely.
Yeah.
So, but when he goes out and he sort of becomes this game of cat and mouse, he has no idea what power she has. And she just starts using the mesh network. She starts like just sending all the other hosts after him. And what's interesting to me is that when Lawrence comes to sort of save him, and she tries to manipulate him, she can't do it. And she's like, oh, I'm glad you're awake. And I believe her, but I think the more interesting part now is we have a test. We actually have a defined thing that says, no, this person is sentient now. This host has their own, you know, mind.
Right, and it was nice to see, because obviously we speculated, we noticed Lawrence was getting there, right?
Yeah.
Like he was getting memories of previous lives, and you know, we'd spoke about that, but I didn't realize he was entirely there already. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder. It makes me want her to try to do it to other people. I mean, I'm sure Dolores is out in the open now, but like,
she tries it on Teddy.
Yeah, like Teddy's interesting. Is it interesting? And you know, especially after this episode, if she tries it on Bernard, what's the outcome of that?
Yeah, I know. You know, last week we were speculating as to the possibility that the Man in Black could be in a host body, right?
Yeah, it was wild speculation, but yeah,
it was, and you know, I was looking at this scene with that in mind, in the back of my mind, and I'm going, he's taking an awful lot of bullets here. But then I'm like, okay, but wouldn't Maeve kind of just sense that, you know, through the mesh network, wouldn't she just try and use her power on him?
Yeah, I don't think he's a host body. I mean, it was fun speculation last week, but
that was the thing that made me think, no, okay, maybe not. But if he is awake and is a host body, would she recognize him in the network?
I think she would, because she doesn't even see the other host. When she comes out of the building, she just sort of like searches for them.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So yeah, I think she would. I think she'd recognize he's a host.
But Lawrence kind of sneaks up on it. So does she sense Lawrence in the same way? Or is it more just she sees him and goes, you know, I think you're a host because of the way you're dressed?
No, I think he sneaks up on her because she's too preoccupied. She's not paying attention. It's not like she's just, you know, omniscient, right? But then on top of that, you could argue as well that she doesn't sense him coming because he's free now. He's become sentient, right? So that could be it, but I think it's just a case of no. She was in the moment. She's got Landon Black at gunpoint. She's focused on something.
No, I think that's the most likely.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there as a possibility, just to slightly further that theory, if for now.
Yeah. But I don't think Man in Black's the host, because you see him lying there, and part of me was thinking, you know what, this is actually a really good ending for him if he dies, with the exception of the fact that I want to see the end of the game. Like, that is the only reason why this would have been unsatisfying death, because the actual conclusion of her, like, basically killing him off like she has the power of God for everything he did, and then, more importantly, the fact that she lets Lawrence unlock his memories, and then he remembers everything he did to him in his past lives, and like he's like, oh, I saved you, your wife, and your whole town this time, and he's like, this time.
Yeah, it works for him getting his comeuppance, right?
Yeah,
but it's kind of unsatisfying for his own personal journey as
Yeah.
to where he was headed.
So I fully expect him still, because I was expecting when the cars showed up with the troops with Sizemore, I was expecting them to take him and patch him up, like they'd save him, you know. But he's still there. He's still lying there, breathing. He's hiding from
He
them.
is. Sizemore cares far more about Maeve than he does Man in Black.
Yeah, because they were just going to put her out of misery, and he's like, no, we need her. She's different from the others. And as much as like, okay, maybe he wants her for the ability she's got to like restore the situation, it still came across as no, he's still seen her as a bit more human than he did before.
No, I think he does. As much
Yeah.
as he ran away and called in backup, I think that's because he's kind of a coward, right? And that's fine. I don't
That's
think
his
he's
character,
evil. Yeah. I think he does have some sort of respect for Maeve at this point.
Yeah, there's a
I
respect
think
there.
he's
Yeah.
learned that over this season.
There's an empathy, I think.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. Because he seems to care when they get back later on. He seems to care, and the scene with her and Dolores, where Dolores is like, "Hey, you know, they're just going to test you and try and force you to give up things, and you know, I'll put you out your misery." And again, I was like, I mean, this could be the end of Maeve's story, maybe, like, just in the sense that she's gotten so powerful that I could buy that. Okay,
it's all just plausible enough this
Yeah.
episode, isn't it?
But then she's like, no, and Dolores, you know, true to her nature, is like, no, it's your choice. If you're saying no, don't do it. That's
Yeah.
your choice. But your path's basically ending here. Although I think Sizemore's going to help her out. And
I do as well, because obviously we see him still hanging around at the end, hiding away. I think he goes back in and patches her up.
yeah, so that's the thing. We see Man in Black get shot like 6 times. We see Maeve get shot a few times, and then we also see, and pretty convincingly die, at least for now, Clementine goes down in a blaze of glory. Who else? There's another one get shot. Oh, Lawrence. Yeah, see Lawrence get shot to shit as well in that scene.
Clementine's an interesting one, because again, I was thinking, you know, Maeve's search for her daughter, and you know, we saw in Shogun World that her opposite number, her daughter figure, was actually her Clementine, right?
Hmm.
And I wonder, does Maeve come to some realization at some point that her Clementine is that to her as well, but she was so focused on the daughter because it was this memory, but that's not who she is anymore. And the daughter doesn't remember her, whereas Clementine would.
And then there's that natural thing, just because it's a child who's more helpless. I think that adds to the
Yeah,
that mystique, if you will.
of course.
I think Clementine had a really badass scene, actually. 'Cause she was like, she gets shot in the shoulder, and then she's like, oh, she grabs one of the guards as a shield, and then she's, you know, there was a lot of
Uses
fancy.
his rifle,
Yeah.
and then drops him and grabs the pistol as he's going down, and takes out the two dudes that pop up.
Yeah, it has to be said, these Delos security guys are
Kind
pretty,
of chumps.
Yeah, they're chumps. I mean, these hosts. But that's the thing. I was thinking about this when Teddy's going all Tedinator on everyone. Which, by the way, that punching at the end of that scene where he's just punching the guy's head in, that was very robotic. The way it looked from behind, the way it was just sort of like very quickly and swiftly. It was the same motion.
It was, yeah.
Exactly. I think that was very intentional. But when he was like firing 2 guns off and he was just shooting guys left and right and he was doing very well, I was like, well, yeah, it makes sense because they actually. Dolores put his skill up, like his skill for like as a marksman
Gunslinger, yeah.
went up. It was like so
his accuracy is like incredible.
Yeah, so he's artificially he's got like a boost. He's basically he's juicing essentially compared to the humans. He has this natural advantage. It's kind of interesting. But that was the other thing with the Maeve scene though, is Maeve was brings this up. It's like, oh, you talk about all this and being free, but you try to justify what you've done to him. Because she can tell, she can sense what she's done.
And I love that this is Teddy at his least human, because that he's always been the blandest. He's the most normal person, right? As Teddy, he's just he goes around, he helps the girl.
That's why they cast James Marsden. He's meant to be the bland guy.
Exactly.
He's the plain white bread.
But the irony is, as everyone, all the hosts are getting closer to finding their humanity and becoming sentient, becoming people, he's suddenly pushed further away than he's ever been.
Yeah.
And it's just this monster now,
yeah,
essentially.
He is basically a Terminator now. He's the most robotic of them all.
He is. He's just a machine. He's just a tool for Dolores.
Yeah. It's that hypocrisy. And Dolores coming in and just basically storming away to get to Charlotte and get to Abernathy. And, Charlotte's been trying to, back up the data, get the thing out of his head, transfer it. Okay, that's not going to be quick enough. Just yank out his brain, get the control unit out.
Yeah.
And that's when Dolores storms in. And, Stubbs is just kind of there. He's like, oh, Dolores, don't shoot me. And I love this scene because it was like, okay, she's like, so you're in charge. And she's like right in Charlotte's face. And Charlotte tries to put on the brave face. She's like, no, I'm in charge. And you're over your head. Like, we're going to beat you. And, like, it's this, like, real meeting of minds. And Dolores just, like, destroys her. Like, by the time we get to the end of the scene, Charlotte's crying, thinking she's going to die.
She's literally running away.
Yeah. She breaks Charlotte.
And I love that, going forward when we're in the present, so to speak, for Charlotte now, this is personal against Dolores. It's not just, oh no, she's got the data that I want.
And it's interesting because obviously Stubbs was trying to get her to, like, hey, you really care about this data, what's in there? And he even threatens to shoot Abernathy at one point. He's like, hey, tell me, what's in there? And again, we're getting these ideas. We'll talk about, obviously, when we get to Ford and Bernard's sort of side of it, but, and, Dolores says, oh, this is like, you want, like, immortality, you want to live forever, and you want to become us. That's what you want. And obviously, like, Stubbs is hearing all this for the first time. He's like, what? What's happening?
Yeah.
And you can tell from Charlotte's face that she's right. I mean, she's at least hitting the right notes, even if it's not exactly what's going on.
It confirms Charlotte definitely knew what was going on with Jim Dallas.
Yeah. And, she steps in and, like, but again, it was this meeting of minds, and Dolores with, like, she almost has this new god complex. We talked a lot about Ford having a god complex. I feel like she has got one of her own now.
Definitely.
We're kind of at that point.
But I think she's interesting because as much as she feels like she has a god complex, I don't know. I don't think it is a god complex. It's a superiority complex.
Okay.
She doesn't have a god complex over the other hosts, like Maeve, for example. She's still willing to give Maeve her own choice. It's only against the humans where she's like, nah, I'm better than you.
Yeah. But she is a vengeful spirit, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Charlotte was lucky they got interrupted.
She was.
She's lucky that Abernathy woke up enough to, like, have a little touching.
It was,
moment.
Yeah. Otherwise, Charlotte was probably dead there.
Yeah, right there and then. And at this point, I was already starting to feel the body count. I was like, damn, this episode.
Yeah.
Everyone's going down. So that's interesting. And we mentioned the Maeve scene. Also really fascinating stuff. I think the Bernard stuff inside the cradle, very interesting.
It is.
A lot of interesting stuff in there. Ford, flat out God complex sort of speech was coming right back into it. There's a couple of really meta lines about, isn't the fun, like, finding the ending for yourself? That line was there. Really interesting.
Which obviously it works so well because all the whole show is about storytelling.
Joe, I thought was so fun about this though. It was like, it confirmed a lot of things. It was like, okay, right, so they're trying to, like, basically get immortality. They're taking all the data of everyone who's in the park. Not that they know that though. Like, and it flat out confirms that no one succeeded in this yet. Because we were speculating last week that Ford only works in here. He wouldn't work if you put him in a host, and he confirms that. He says that outright. I think it's interesting. It's like, okay, so you're stealing, like, not only just who people are, but you're basically trying to copy who they are with all this data.
You want to be able to recreate them.
Like, is the plan ultimately to sell it back to the person? Like, once they die, they won't know about this, but it's like, they go to the family and say, hey, you can have him back. We've actually, we made a copy, essentially, when he came to the park. Like, is that the plan? Or is there more, like, nefarious purposes to it, to having everyone?
It's obviously something I was speculating earlier on in the season, before we knew how limited this technology was almost like sleeper agents, if people, if they die at the park.
Which I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure we're not there, because given everything they've said.
Absolutely, we're not there yet. Yeah. I think that might have been part of their goal, though.
I don't know if I'd necessarily jump to sleeper agents. I think the purpose, actually, of all the data of all the people, like, obviously, they want people to be able to copy themselves willingly when it's an option and, charge through the roof for that, I imagine.
Yeah.
I think the purpose, though, of recording all the guests and kind of copying them, I think that's got more to do with trying to figure out how to make it work. and figure out how human minds work and how different people react in different ways and that unpredictability, because clearly it's been 30 years and they've still not managed to get it working inside a host. I think that it's more about understanding the human mind enough to make it work than it is
possible.
to copy the individual people per se.
It's true. I think though, if they didn't have the nefarious plan, if it was just, oh no, we want to make it work and sell it to them, I don't think they need to be quite so shady about hiding that they're taking the information. So I'm thinking,
that's still really shady though.
It is shady, but I think it would be buried in a privacy policy that no one reads.
I mean, you think Google and Facebook, like, watching your browsing history is shady? This is like that times a million.
It is. But again, I think that was buried in a privacy policy somewhere, and just no one caught on for so long. Whereas this feels like there's nothing. So what I was thinking is like, okay, so say a CEO of a rival company comes to visit on a holiday. Oh, we've got all this data about him. Oh, now we can replace him with our own host version of him, and we have now got control of that company. I can see them having that sort of application. Again, they're not there yet, but as part of their goal.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I still feel like you're jumping really far in to say, their plan is sleeper agents. They want to replace people without them knowing. It's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I don't know if I'm ready to jump on that bandwagon. I feel like it's not there. It's more about having immortality so they can sell it.
No, fair enough.
And the shady practices that get to that point to kind of to go there, because I mean, I've outright said we're not at that point yet. I mean, maybe if we get there like next season and they sort of unlock the potential, maybe the end of this season, the natural ending of this season is it succeeding in some way.
Yeah, no, it could be.
Like, is the final scene of this season James Delos stepping out and he's okay? Like, and it's like, oh, it's worked somehow.
Yeah, who do you do that with? Do you do it with Ford? Do you do it with Delos?
Whatever story they've got planned for next year, that's whatever one you do it with.
No, that's a fair question.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I feel like that might be a big moment that we get to at some point.
It feels like a big moment, doesn't it?
If not this season, then next season. But this season seems to be the season about that, so it makes sense to have it at the end of this season.
It does. Yeah.
Or I wonder if it's because, and it's funny because we were talking about again last week about how Arnold's kind of different, or Bernard's different, because he's not actually a copy of Arnold, it's more of a recreation of Arnold. And Ford outright talks about that. All this stuff with Ford, it was like, everything you've been theorizing all season, we're going to actually talk about it.
Answers.
Yeah. And he's like, but you're different, you're a recreation, you're a new thing that's built out of the old. Of course, one of the things we mentioned a lot last week, or we speculated a lot, was the scenes of Dolores like testing Bernard. And where that was, when that was. I actually did see people predicting that this was actually just Ford through Dolores, which it's not exactly right. The intent is the same, but it is Dolores. He actually did use Dolores because Dolores had good memories, and that's why she's the one testing him. Which I wouldn't say is disappointing. I don't think it's a bad thing for the story. I am a little bit disappointed though because I was so excited with the prospect of Dolores wanting to do it.
Yeah, it's a little underwhelming because but that's more on us building it up than anything.
We just really like that idea. I mean, we latched onto it.
But it explains why she's in the blue dress still, and it's essentially she's in analysis mode as well, and just recalling the memories. She's not sentient yet either.
Yeah. This is in the past because he says you were trained here for years before.
Yeah.
But before I put you in a body.
And the whole point was again. Going back to how I said, they recreated Arnold into Bernard. Not exactly, but they kind of used his memories to shape him, and that's what Ford talks about here. Is he used his memories, but his memories aren't perfect. But Dolores, obviously, she can recall with complete accuracy, which is why she can pick up on that sentence that's not quite right as to what he would have said. So it really is as close as possible.
I still wonder if we get. I mean, that's the other thing they answered. The flashback of him taking this control unit. That was Ford. They say that outright.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I really like about this is it doesn't undermine Ford's sacrifice at the end of the first season. He's still got a god complex. Don't get me wrong, but because Bernard accuses him, is like, oh, you told Dolores to shoot you, right? And he goes, no, I didn't. I knew that's what she would do. Because again, we've been studying people. I can predict that's probably what she'll do. But she still made that choice for herself to do it.
Yeah. No, it's the same with him. Because even later on, when we get outside and because it's obviously the ending of all this cradle stuff is like, okay, well clearly this isn't working the way I thought it would. I'm going to have to take your free will back, and we have that, you know, the hand coming towards him. Then Elsie gets him out because there's like bad guys coming. She has to like get him out, and I was curious about what he meant by that, to what extent, and I actually like where it went, where he's not just completely taking control. He's in there. He's you know, Bernard sees him as if he's like a ghost with him. He's inside his head with him, right? And when Ford asks him to do something, it's not a command at first. He actually just asks him to do it, and he tells it like an order, but it's not an actual host command. Bernard still has the choice to obey it and understand it. It's not until the very end, when he refuses to pick up the gun, where Ford steps in and says, well, I need to take control now. So he's still trying to let Bernard make the choices, but if he's not making the choices that he wants, he's stepping in and intervening.
And I love the shot of, you know, the gun firing
Yeah.
the gun. It's cut in between the two of them holding it.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and it does make you wonder. The present day stuff, if we're calling it that, is Ford still in there?
I think so. It makes sense as to why Bernard is so spaced out, right?
Yeah.
And again, going back to on the looking down at all the bodies, you say, "No, this was my fault. I did this." Was it him or was it Ford?
Is that Ford saying that? Yeah, no, I could see that.
Yeah.
So that is really fascinating. I think when Bernard wakes up again, we're back in the furthest in the timeline with Charlotte and that, and it's like, okay, right, now we know where we're going. We're going back to the Valley Beyond. That's where all this is building up to. And we also see in the flashback Bernard actually reprogramming the park and then smashing it so no one else can do anything. So really setting up a lot of things here. I believe from the preview for next week it's a Ghost Nation focused episode.
Okay,
so that'll be an interesting thing. Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I just saw people talking about the preview.
Oh, okay, cool. No, but obviously we've been speculating a lot about Ghost Nation.
Yeah, so it makes sense to get an episode focused a lot on them, I think.
Yeah, I think it is interesting, especially after this episode where they drove Man in Black towards Maeve, and he thinks that's part of Ford's plan, his game, but is it?
It may be, but not in the sense that he's programmed Maeve, but he knew he should go for the door.
Yeah, in the same way he knew Dolores would shoot him.
Because this is the thing. I mean, obviously, Ford saying no, we have to kill these guys, and no, Bernard, I have to take over because you're being too sympathetic. As much as that's really cold, I still get the feeling that Ford's ultimate goal is noble, at least in the context of giving the hosts their freedom and giving them sentience. He still seems to want them to sort of get to their
awakening.
Awakening, yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he, again, it comes down to his god complex. He wants to create a species, essentially. He wants to birth them into existence.
Yeah, because when he talks about Dolores and everything she's doing, he sounds almost proud.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's, you say, oh, he's doing it for the right reasons. And as an outsider looking in, we want them to have freedom because we see how close they are. Some of them are already there, so that we feel like, okay, they deserve it. I don't know if Ford is thinking that it's because they deserve it, or if it's more, to prove that he did it. He pushed them. He created life.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. It depends if the God complex is why he's doing any of this, or he's just the God complex is formed because of the power and control that he's created for himself through everything. Which is kind of the thing. I'm more inclined to go with that side of it because I've always got the impression, especially with all the stuff in season 1, that the tragedy with Arnold is kind of what propelled him down this path. And he even mentions that all this Delos stuff and trying to copy humans into hosts, that didn't start until after Arnold died, and he doesn't outright say it in this episode, but it does kind of sound like he's not necessarily approving of that. Because the fact that he's helping the hosts is you're becoming them, but they don't want that. They want to become you, essentially.
Yeah.
It does sound like he's against what Delos wanted to do.
No, it's just true.
Especially if you go back to the same with Man in Black in season 1, where they felt like friendly antagonists across the table.
They did. But I feel like this. I was hesitant about bringing Ford back as to whether or not it would undermine the end of season 1, but no, ultimately I don't think it has at all. I'm really glad that it's added a lot of depth with what they're doing with him.
Yeah, and it's given the cradle and the idea of the simulations and the idea of especially since we went into human minds being copied and human minds being continued on past death. it makes sense to continue that with a character who died in season 1.
It does, yeah.
So it'll be curious to see what Ford's game plan is with Bernard for the rest of the season, what leads to those bodies dying, and what the outcome of that is in the finale.
Yeah. And again, ultimately, how does what he's doing here play into whatever he's pushing for the Man in Black?
Yes. I mean, it is ultimately that the Man in Black will learn that, like, doing this in the first place, that was the wrong move, and understanding what he's done to the, like, because clearly I think the critique that he'd have of Man in Black is he doesn't understand humanity, because he's trying to copy someone, and then he also doesn't see the hosts for what they can be.
Yeah, he's so desperate just to cling to humanity and cling to life by cloning, essentially, by cloning their brains into a new host.
Yeah.
Whereas, Ford's view is, no, we deserve to die when we die, but these hosts that become sentient, they have their own life to live.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to think about how the suicide of his wife. Now, obviously, he was already really far gone before that. That's why that's why that relationship deteriorated like it did. But I have to imagine that suicide was the final, like the push over the line that he's over now, where he is this obsessed and this inhumane with how he is.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to imagine that. So it's interesting, and it makes me wonder if, like, I don't know, just what Ford's got planned for him beyond because Man in Black's lying. Like I said, he's been shot like 5 or 6 times. He's lying there bleeding.
Yeah, no one's around to help him.
Unless the Ghost Nation come and get him, and they patch him up.
I think that's a pretty plausible answer, because
I could see it
again,
happening.
they're kind of doing their own thing, and if that is Ford's plan, Ford don't want Man in Black dead right here.
No,
he hasn't learned his lesson, whatever it is.
No, no, it's fascinating. This was a really good episode. This was firing on all the plots. They all kind of tied in together thematically really well. And there was some fantastic sort of showdowns between characters. I think the Maeve, Man in Black, and Lawrence, like, 3-way standoff is my favourite, but Dolores Charlotte was really good. Everything with Bernard and Ford in the cradle was fantastic.
It had a fantastic balance between the conversations, the facing off of ideas between characters versus, okay, this is some great looking action with all the guns and stuff going down.
And it's funny because I compared Maeve and Dolores to Xavier and Magneto in terms of the debate about what to do with their own kind. And I feel like Ford and Man in Black are largely kind of in those shoes as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Again, getting back to that meeting in season 1, that's what that scene felt like. It felt like the Xavier and Man in Black, the Xavier and Magneto sitting down and having a debate. The old friends who aren't really friends, but there's a respect there, even if they don't like what each other have been doing. It's interesting stuff, and yeah, I think it's fascinating to me that the entire thing boils down to this ideological debate of what is humanity and what is life.
Yeah,
which arguably it was obvious it was always going to be that, but I think when you started the show, it was like, okay, right, so robots going to uprise and like take control and fight back. It's okay.
It didn't start delving into any of those questions until quite late in season 1.
Yeah. But because up until then, it was just about, can the host become human?
Yeah.
That was the focus of season 1. Season 2 has definitely been delving into, okay, how much of their humanity is humanity, and is copying our humanity over to a host, is that still human? And we're playing with these ideas. And because as Ford puts it, it's like the brain is the last analog piece of data in a completely digital world.
I love the concept that they're able to literally create entire people, like, to become hosts. They become sentient people, but they can't copy the information that from a human brain and put it into another body.
Which, in a weird way, says that the human brain still has something over what the hosts are, because it's still
it's incompatible with these.
Yeah, it's just that bit more complex, and there's that spark of life there that you just can't duplicate.
Yeah. And I think that'll be interesting to delve into, I think.
Yeah. But arguably, does that make them more human, or is the simple lesson just kind of like how Ford and like Arnold to a point, but definitely Ford have been kind of doing with the hosts, is that no, they have to sort of be born and grow. You can't just jump to like the full, like, it's almost like instead of copying James Delos, you'd have to like copy him as a baby and then let him age up again and let him develop again.
Yeah, you'd have to guide him through the exact same choices of his life to create the same person,
Yeah.
essentially. Which is kind of what he's done with Bernard, right? He's taken all of Arnold's experiences and kind of shifted them as close as they can get to create a person who is as close to Arnold as they could, but still definitively his own man.
Yeah, that was a great episode. This was because obviously the Shogun episode was definitely a bit weaker. Last week's had a lot of good stuff in it, but still had a couple of weak elements. Or has there been more than one since the Shogun episode? That was five, then six, seven. Yeah, okay, yeah.
No, you're all right.
Yeah, no, I was questioning. Remember, we had complaints that the Dolores subplot in the Shogun episode was. I was trying to remember if that was the episode after the Shogun episode, but it wasn't. It was the same one.
I know. It was the same one.
And then last week's had a lot of great moments, but it felt a little bit too scattershot. Whereas I feel like this is back to. I think
this had a proper flow to it.
This is probably the second best episode after episode 4 of the season.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, really good stuff. So that is episode what was that 7? Episode 7.
I think so.
So episode 8 next week, and again, it will be late. It will not be at the usual time. It will be Tuesday night sometime before the review goes up because Connor's away for a couple of days. So don't expect it at the usual time. It'll be there a little bit later. But yeah, let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Get us in the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and everything we do here, go over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and you can have a look at what's on offer over there. There's links to all the different audio feeds and the stuff we do. Also, you can support us by just liking, subscribing, all the usual things that help the channel out. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?